been a little bit tough to record any episodes as of late. One of the main reasons is my continuous challenges or difficulty with my mental health. So perhaps give a brief update. I guess there are a couple of symptoms that are becoming more severe. That is, there is awareness that it's affecting or interfering or covering up presence. And it's the combination of dissociation, of not being in touch with the body and in some ways the mind as well. And the other symptom is, I've heard the term brain fog, and perhaps that's accurate for me in regards to difficulty in, I guess, the activity of mind, of functionality of mind. I've previously referred to as cognitive function, the dysfunction of cognitive abilities, or whether it's conveying thoughts, understanding one's own feelings. So there's a big energy surge in this area. There's lots of, almost like the sky with overcast clouds. You can sense, okay, there's something covering up the space, there's something here. So whether perhaps I can refer to it as, a dark cloud, a dense cloud of dissociation, a dense cloud of brain fog. That's increasing in severity, and so that seems to be absorbing a lot of my energy and drawing me in. And so in order for presence to be there, there needs to be a great effort is involved to, in some ways, counteract or to break through the dissociation and the brain fog. Another example to illustrate it could be, it's been used many times, the roadside drill. Our good friend, the roadside drill. Huge noise, interference. And so in order to be present with that going on, there may be effort needed to become aware of the space around the sound, the space of where the sound emerges from the background silence. And so for me it's an enormous struggle to connect with, to step into, to unveil, uncover the present moment. So there's not really been much incentive or anything in a sense to record about these past several weeks. And it's only recently I've began reading the book Karma by the author Sadhguru, and I thought I've read perhaps 10 or 15 pages, and I thought I could share some extracts from the reading. I've had this book for a while, and seems as if the timing of finishing off A New Earth, and I've gravitated towards this book here, and also it's taken me a while to move into another book, purely because with the way I'm feeling, the experience of my current circumstances, it's very difficult to engage in any sort of spiritual content, whether it's recording these episodes or reading or watching any sort of spiritual videos by teachers. But there has been a day or two where I have read a small amount of this book, and I can share some extracts of the first portion that I've read. And I can begin with a note that's addressed to all seekers. Is at the start of the book, before the contents page. It says, "To all seekers, the inner journey through an uncharted landscape can be fraught with contradictions of thought, emotion, experience, and action. This book strives to lift the haze of these contradictions in the minds and hearts of all seekers of truth." And the first section of this book is titled Unraveling Karma, an Introduction. And it starts off with a story that that gives an example. It illustrates somebody's series of events of karma. But I'll begin with just a small reading, and I guess in a sense this won't be like before, where it'd be a full reading beginning to end. It would just be certain extracts, and if those extracts resonate and there is the calling to purchase the book, then I can leave that with you. So Sadhguru talks about karma being the inescapable basis of our lives, the mechanism that decrees that we cannot evade the consequences of our own actions, and the cycle that appears to follow us grimly and inexorably wherever we go. And in this section it is talked about how karma is sort of gained a popularity, and it stood the test of time through centuries. And although it's Indian in its origin, it's now almost a global understanding, or perhaps a global knowing of the word karma, but do we really understand the true meaning of it? It is said here that for far too long the word has been either grotesquely oversimplified or needlessly mystified. And it is time to explore the concept more deeply. It is time to unpack the most overused, abused, and yet indispensable word in the spiritual vocabulary of the world. And that this book hopes to be both an exploration and a guide, offering the reader keys to living intelligently and joyfully in a challenging world. And Sadhguru mentions a few elements of the book, of how the book is set out. He says, I will outline a series of sutras to help you navigate the world of karma. And sutra literally means thread. That nobody wears a necklace for the sake of the thread, but without a thread there can be no necklace. And the book is divided in 3 parts. The first explores karma as a source of entanglement. The second explores the possibilities of freedom from this entanglement. And the third addresses frequent questions about the subject. And there's some words of encouragement there given, and a caution that you may find as you journey deeper into this book that you encounter various technical terms. But don't lose heart. Karma is not a poetic subject. It is a complex domain, one that involves precise, even clinical concepts and distinctions. Yet neither is karma a sterile theme. It is the basis of human existence, a life and death issue, in fact. There can be nothing narrowly academic about such a discussion. And continuing the layout of the book, so we talked about sutras of thread, and now it's mentioned here about sadhanas. In Sanskrit, sadhana means a device or tool, And these tools offer you an opportunity to put into practice some of the insights you encounter in each chapter and to test them in the laboratory of your experience. And there are the words, "Let us unravel karma," which leads us into part 1. And to read a small extract here. My approach to karma, therefore, is not and has never been that of a scholar. When I speak of karma, I am not drawing on doctrine. I am drawing on perception. Conceptual knowledge is the way of the academic. Perceptual knowledge is the way of the yogi. So he sets the tone of the book here, that it's not writings of academia, of the way of the academic, but it is sharings of his own experience of perception, and that this is the way of the yogi. And there is empathization. There is, I want to empathize that the complexity, the multidimensionality of karma, these are not abstruse theories, but rather direct insights into the actual workings of karma. And this section, part 1, is for the thirsty. It is for those who have nursed questions over the years, such as, what is karma? How does it accumulate? What makes the machinery work? When did this whole complicated and crazy cycle begin? It is for those who aren't looking for mere user manuals, but for a glimpse into the very mechanism of the karmic wheel. Spiritual seekers usually want to shed their karma, but it is important to remember that karma is not our enemy. It is not necessary to eliminate all karma to lead a life of well-being. Indeed, we would not be able to live without karma, for human life is sustained by it. At the same time, karma can become wounding and deeply entangling if we do not learn how to handle it. And if you find your foot recurrently crushed under a wheel, the problem is not with the wheel. The problem is that you have no clue how to ride it. The aim of this book is not to reinvent the wheel, but to suggest ways to ride it joyfully toward the destination of your choice, secure in the knowledge that you are in control of your own journey. So I'm going to finish the extracts with reading the first sutra, the first thread of the first section, that is titled Karma, the Internal Enigma. Sutra 1. Karma is about becoming the source of one's own creation. In shifting responsibility from heaven to oneself, one becomes the very maker of one's destiny. And I'll perhaps continue the reading some more extracts in another episode. So just a brief introduction to karma, almost a pre-introduction, as we haven't yet gone into the definition, but perhaps there's been talk about how to understand karma. So we're sort of starting off on the right foot. And perhaps cleaning any preconceptions of karma that may have been picked up in the sort of commercial way. So there's notes that karma is not our enemy. It is part of the human life. It's almost lifting the bonnet of human life and looking underneath. We refer to life as driving the car. I think that's the metaphor in that Sadhguru uses as we after the sutra that we've read. A section is titled In the Driver's Seat. So it is almost communicated that karma is creation, it's action, and it's not something to be afraid of. It is something that, with conscious engagement, there can be an untangling of karma. I think there's actually a line where here it is. At the same time, karma can become wounding and deeply entangling if we do not learn how to handle it. And it's mentioned here, I think something we've read about, with learning how to use karma, it can be a liberation. So perhaps a good place to begin with this subject matter, karma, just a few encouraging words by beginning of this book, and a little bit of a sort of base layer to begin with, a stable foundation as karma is explored. And I sense this can be a very challenging subject. It's even mentioned here. I'm not sure if that was an extract part I read, but I know for myself this will be very challenging to read. Maybe perhaps challenging to the mind. It is where the mind perhaps can be fearful of the concept of karma. And perhaps we can notice as we read and go through the extracts in the following episodes that to notice if it's the mind becoming stressed or fearful of karma, and to remedy that with sort of compassionate awareness, compassionate presence. A few moments of presence. And I can sense the struggle I'm feeling at the moment with even with just stepping into presence in this moment. And again, there is the useful pointer of accepting the unacceptable, accepting that, okay, I can't be present, or I can't sense the presence, the spacious awareness. There's always a possibility to step back, even into the unacceptable. And whatever is blocking or covering up, that itself becomes the presence itself. You're able to come present of that. So I talked about the dark cloud. So instead of being fully in it, there's now a step back and you can sense it there. It may not mean that there's a great deal of spacious awareness, but there isn't, you aren't fully unconscious any longer. And again, just to note as we move forward, I sense that the recordings of these episodes will be quite sporadic, so just a heads up. Of course, I'm not, don't know what will happen in the future. I may have a run of consecutive weekly episodes, or there may be gaps there as well, so whatever will be in the future, but perhaps to set the expectations that the gaps, recordings may sort of come and go in bursts or in long gaps. And as I move forward, I will make use of the teachings that have been covered so far in this podcast, especially with a new earth, and on a very simple level, just the useful pointers available, especially in these difficult life situations that I have for myself. And I've noticed in a deep sort of despair or deep unwellness that there has been the pointers arising that, okay, for this, can I be present for this moment? Whether it's a few seconds or a minute or so, or can you surrender to this moment? So whatever is happening in this moment, can you allow and accept this? So that's my sort of forward moving intentions to, and perhaps something that may help myself is to listen to one of Eckhart's retreat recordings, which I have purchased a few recordings of his retreats, and I know there's an early retreat that's on YouTube as well. Forgetting the name of it. I think it's the Omega retreat. You can type in Eckhart Tolle Omega for those of you not aware, and there's almost a full retreat available in a number of sessions, maybe 7 or 8, and it might be good for perhaps some immersion for me. Okay, so I'll leave it here. Thank you for joining me for this episode. I wish you well, and I'll meet you in the next episode. Take care.